All right, guys, what's going on? Trout here. So we're just gonna give you a quick American Thanksgiving recap. Happy Thanksgiving to the Americans out there. We're just gonna do a quick overview of going into Friday. And yeah, we're just gonna do SPX, Nasdaq, and Bitcoin. On Sunday, we're gonna do probably more of a close to hour-long review. We're gonna really go into some fundamentals and stuff because Sunday's the weekly close for Bitcoin. It's good to get a weekly recap there. But we're just going to do a quick hedge here going into Friday Thanksgiving week. Yeah, so we're just going to cover some stuff. So we ended Thursday actually down a little bit. We were up, but we actually fell off a bit into the end of the day. The suppressive charm for the SPX was actually showing a pin closer to 620. We closed at 68.12. So that's whatever, doesn't matter. From a VWAP perspective, we did fall under the tariff fiasco VWAP for a bit, but we've managed to climb above. We are still under the all-time high VWAP. I'll tell you right now, just from a Greek's perspective, there's a lot of hedging going on for downside in this range. So we have our neckline here, right, that we need to reclaim and get above if we want to get closer to 7,000. We are still under the VWAP here. But we did close above the box finally. So going into the end of the week, more importantly, the end of the month, we want to see above this VWAP here or a back test off the previous sentiment and back above. But the real key structure here we want to see is acceptance above this neckline to move up higher, right? We don't want to touch it and then come down back into the range. We want to see like up, bounce up, and hold support here on this previous neckline and go above. So just mind you that between this, I'm just gonna tell you right now, it's 6845 to about 6875. There's a lot of put hedging in there from a Greek perspective. I'll put some of it on the screen, but just mark that down. So this 30-point range here, just know there is a lot of downside hedging coming into it. From a levels perspective here, the monthly open on the SPX is right up here at that blue line, right? So just be mindful that trying to reclaim that yearly open on Bitcoin and trying to reclaim this monthly open on the SPX, that's very critical. And you have one trading day to do it before it's December. So I don't know, right? We're in this pivotal point of can we move higher or can we not, right? And I don't know, right? Like could we get it inverted head and shoulders where we do something like could you get an inverted head and shoulders pattern going on and make that breakout into December? You know, or are we going to do some weird head and shoulder the opposite way where we're just going to do something like that, right? Like we don't really know. Sorry, that was a really bad head and shoulders, but you see what I mean? Like that's pretty critical. Or a 30-day rolling VWAP here. So these are rolling VWAPs, this green line, that's a 30-day. We are above it, but you really want to see a weekly close above this. Like we wouldn't want to fade below that, and we really want to see a monthly close above that as well. Again, showing here under the all-time high VWAP, the red here, we really want to get acceptance above that. But again, this here, like this point of control from the previous breakdown, we really want to get above that. Something to note, I will say, is yes, we did ultimately gap up and push higher, but we actually closed at the value area low on the Wednesday session. So I would just keep this in mind that if you get some weird rejection where you get a rejection off the point of control and down, or you get a rejection, you know, off the naked high and down, just keep that in mind. Not saying it has to happen, but it was kind of weird that we actually fell back to the value area low. We didn't get below it, which I guess is a good case. We stayed within range, but I just want to keep in mind here that if at some point we do pull back and fill this lower section, I wouldn't be surprised. So just be mindful that we did close at the value area low, and there is a lot of fingerprints down here. Yeah, just be mindful that within this 30-point range here, there's a lot of put hedging. We'll see what happens. Friday, I'm not really sure what happens. You know, going into tomorrow, I'm going to see what the Greeks look like in the morning when we open up. But that's what SPX is looking like from a TPO perspective. So for the QQQ here, this is a little bit different. So we are above the green VWAP from April. I will say this. we barely closed, like we barely got above the box. The QQQ is actually suffering a lot more than the SPX, and this is a bit concerning because, you know, a lot of those, the QQQ and SPX, it's all tech-based, right? Like the QQQ is tech-based, but the SPX is also a heavyweight tech sector. What we really want to see here is this weekly close above. Like we said with the SPX, we don't want to see acceptance into the previous range. We want to see a hold above, and again, I guess I'll draw this out here, but you don't want to get a rejection here off, you know, 628. You know, we could even argue that there are some gaps here to be filled. This might get filled here before it goes down again. But again, we're still really under the VWAP in the tech sector here. So we don't want to see, you know, a rejection kind of off this here, which I guess this actually kind of is a level because you can see here it was kind of acting as resistance before we broke down. So I guess we'll just put that there because why not? You don't want to see like some sort of, you know, look above and fail and break down, or even just a rejection off and down. We really want to see going into the end of the month here that this is steady and it closes above. Again, you have just tomorrow to trade before it's December. So it's definitely like the bulls have some stuff cut out for them. I'll be honest, directionally, it's not clear yet. You know, there's definitely some uncertainty. Like this just closed on a doji. It's not showing clear direction yet. So it's up to you what trade you want to take. I might try and scalp both ways. I might see if we get a push up and then a fail to hold above. We'll see, right? There was some comments about Trump saying troops might be on the ground in Venezuela that came out today. So just be mindful that if things get a little bit rocky, that might cause a bit of a spook. We don't know. The VIX here also closed on a cross. That is basically an undecisive scenario, right? It actually closed above the previous day's range, but it didn't get sent below. From historical patterns, this is actually a bullish VIX structure. And what I mean by that is like you get spikes here, a drop, a spike here, a drop for a big push up. I am wondering if in December, you know, let's just say kind of what we got here, if, you know, we were to overlay that, you know, are you getting something like this, right? Like, it's kind of a mediocre bar forecast pattern, but this is bullish VIX structure, ironically. And we talked about, too, I'll put this on the screen, of this VIX call hedging. And, you know, too, just from like an RSI perspective, you know, we're not below this yet. This is your mid-level here from our RSI indicator. We're like this red line hasn't even crossed below yet. There's a very good chance it could do something like this and perk up, right? And historically, again, that's not an uncommon pattern where, you know, like let's look at March, right? Like it did that. It came up here, sold off this mid-level, and then ultimately broke up. You know, in previous VIX explosions too, like you can see it goes up and then it rechecks in and then pushes up. I'm talking about like big VIX spikes, not little ones, right? Like, you know, here's another good one where it barely went below and then perked up again to 53, right? Like it's actually bullish VIX structure, which is actually uncertain for markets, right? Because the VIX is a volatility indicator for the S&P. Bitcoin here did exactly what I thought it would. I told you guys that these single prints here were going to get filled. Sure enough, where are we? Right between the yearly open and the previous year value area low. We've actually opened at the point of control of this previous day range. So the open was right here, and we've actually fallen below it. Yeah. So that's not actually a good thing for Bitcoin, being under this point of control here. Obviously, there's a chance for it to bounce back up, but we just keep in mind we are under the previous day's value area low as of writing. There's a good chance, you know, it can always come back up in the day. It never broke 92, which I was a bit surprised by. Like, it got rejected pretty much right just under it by about 100 points. So that might be sending a signal for what maybe is to come this week. Bitcoin still looks structurally pretty weak. Yes, I said we'd get this bounce. Yes, I said we'd get these fingerprints filled. But you have to reclaim that 93,000 level. And I hope that happens by Sunday, because if it doesn't, I do see us going back down into range. And I see us going back down and at least testing this value area high here, or at least retesting the imbalance from the previous multi-day range, right? So you can clearly see here on Bitcoin, there's a lot of structural imbalance right here. Like these order blocks are probably going to get filled within the next few days, I would assume, right? So don't be surprised if we do something like this, we reject out the point of control and we come down and fill this area, right? Now that can set you up for a few things. Like it set you up for just a rejection and back down, or, you know, you could get a nice bounce off that and, you know, get some more upside here and try and reclaim this 93,000 level. Just mind you, and I said this in the last few videos too, but this yearly open is very important to clear. Very important. You know, in Bitcoin here, that previous week VWAP, it's failing to kind of get above it, right? That's your all-time high VWAP, and again, a lot of confluence here, right? Like we have that yearly open here, the value area low is just below, but that's that previous week VWAP, and this is also the all-time high VWAP. You know, are we going to reject off this and move down? It's hard to say. As for structure from our cycle bottom VWAP, you know, ultimately we did get acceptance back into this value area here. Can we hold above it? It's hard to say, but there's a lot of compression coming in to this general zone here between 85 and 92,000, right? Roughly. Bitcoin's just in a weird spot. I'll be honest, I am short. Like I'm short. I put an order in at 91,500 and I put another one in at 92. My 92 didn't even get filled. It didn't even break above by $100. Like, come on. Like, how can you get up there? So you're in a weird spot. If you guys want me to go over some of the other altcoins this weekend, drop a comment. But Bitcoin is definitely in a weird scenario, right? Like there's definitely some compression going on. I don't want to see these VWAPs cross over and get acceptance back into value down here, right? Because then you'd be looking for a bounce in the 50s, right? You're not even going to get, you know, you might get that little 70s bounce I said, but you'd probably make your way down to this 55 range. And that's expected. Like, I honestly do expect that. You know, Bitcoin usually does is anywhere from 50 to 70% correction. That's not unforeseeable by any means. But Bitcoin usually runs liquidity in markets. And markets have barely pulled back, but Bitcoin's pulled back a lot. So if you do get a volatility event, which I do expect in Q1 coming up in 2026, and I've been saying this on Twitter, like I seriously expect a 1,000-point drop in the SPX in Q1. I'm not even joking around. I genuinely think that is going to happen, whether you like it or not. We can talk about tariffs, we can talk about inflation, the Fed, whatever. I do think the Supreme Court overruling tariffs is going to cause some uncertainty. I do think liquidity issues with the repo market, what the Federal Reserve might do. People think this whole QE thing is going to be super bullish. Could we just get a correction in Q1, QE starts, and markets go up and make a rally? Yeah, absolutely. And that would signify a bear market move, right? Because bear markets, you know, they usually don't just go up and then straight down. Usually it's like up, down, then down, right? Like you usually get some sort of up, a drop, a half-ass attempt rally before another drop. So I could totally see Q1 doing something like that for us. Anyways, guys, hopefully that was a quick update. Happy Thanksgiving again. Yeah, take care, everyone.